So recently I had to do a few public art presentations, and I want to do 3 tips on doing public art presentations, and you can probably just use this for proposals in general, but 3 tips that help you out. So tip number 1, have as many visuals as possible. So whether you're in person doing a presentation or you're on Zoom doing a presentation, having as many visual aids as possible is key. So you want to sort of go before this committee, and the committee is a group of people that are listening to you sort of present your idea, your concept about, a public art, a mural or a sculpture or whatever, and they're trying to figure out exactly what you're trying to present to them and have in this public art space. So you want to help them out as much as possible by providing any visual aid to sort of get them from not knowing your project to actually knowing exactly what your project is going to look like, feel like, sound like, what people will experience in that space. Go to the actual site to do a site visit, take pictures, do renderings, scan the place, and create sketches, 3D renderings, video. So, anything and everything that can really help them go from point A of not knowing exactly what your art or concept is going to look like to point B, knowing exactly everything about your project and what it's going to look like, how it's going to fit into the space, and like I said, the sights, the sound, the feel of the textures, all that. So having as many visual aids as possible is really, really key. So not every artist is great at sketching or sort of like illustration. You can actually hire a friend or even go to a place like Fiverr or Upwork or one of these sort of sites that you can hire creatives and basically say, hey, I would love to have someone illustrate my idea or do a 3D rendering of my idea so that I can use this for a presentation. I recently spent about $2,500 on a recent presentation for visuals just to help me out, and it was a great return on investment because the presentation looked amazing. And I'll do a video on that presentation that I did for the Denver International Airport soon. I want to make sure I get the video just right, so I'll have that soon. And tip number 2 is have a detailed budget. A detailed budget just showcases that you're thinking about the project when it comes to the financial costs and expenses from start to finish. So different things that I have on my line item are materials cost, installation costs, labor costs like fabrication costs, administration fees. I have insurance as well. I have photography and documentation costs. I have transportation costs. I allocate for maintenance as well. So after the piece is installed, maybe 6 months later, something is damaged on it. How much am I going to allocate or put aside to sort of fix that problem that comes up after it's installed? And I also have a contingency cost as well. So if materials increase in cost, from today to a year when I actually start the project, I have like money set aside that, can compensate for that increase in cost. Or, something may happen when it comes to the materials. Maybe something broke down and I have to sort of fix it during installation. So there's always going to be something that comes up where you want to have like a budget just for that. So when the committee sees that you're sort of getting detailed about the budget, they know that you're thinking about this project from start to finish, and you're sort of thinking about how to prevent you from going over budget or under budget. You're just right on budget in terms of the things that you need. And lastly, tip number 3 is always prepare for Q&A. So always practicing questions that may arise. I know a lot of times questions about material arise a lot, longevity, durability, how will this last in weather, things like fireproof. So like you have to sort of adhere to fire codes. So is this material flammable? That's a question that sometimes come up. Or how long does the colors on this piece last, especially in different climates, because it's going to last different in Miami than it does in a place that doesn't get a lot of sun, like a Washington. So you're really going to have to sort of prep when it comes to Q&A. So the thing that I always do is make sure I have appendix a part of my presentation. It's something that when I present, they don't see it when I get done with my presentation, but if they ask a question, I have an extra slide or pieces of information far beyond my presentation that I can always go to and say, hey, this is the specs for this material, this is the specs for the way we transport it, this is the specs for the type of coloring. So I always have a presentation full of information far beyond the regular presentation that I present, so that when Q&A comes up and I get a question, I can not only answer the question, but I can go to visuals beyond the regular presentation with slides that sort of address that question that they may have. So always preparing for Q&A is super, super important, and it just says to the committee that you're thinking about everything when it comes to this project. Sometimes you can have the best presentation ever and still not get picked for a public art call or a public art project, but you don't want to lose a public art project for a lack of preparation, a lack of visual aids, a lack of being detailed in your budget. So that is something that I've been learning more and more so. So hopefully that helped out when it comes to public art presentations. So if you're preparing for one, definitely take those 3 tips, apply it to your presentation that you're doing, and see how you can improve it by adding more details, more visual aids, being able to sort of answer questions that you may not know are coming, but because you sort of prep for anything and everything, you're able to answer those questions. So prep, and you'll be great in that presentation. I'll see you next time. Peace.